I am not used to being able to tan, and so I have no makeup that matches my face right now, so I look pretty crazy, but look at that. Yes. This is a story I've had a lot of family and friends asking about since I got here, but spoiler alert, yes, I fled Australia when my study abroad program got canceled and came to Hawaii to work as a nanny slash babysitter slash you'll see, and I have now been here for 2.5 months. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tell the story chronologically. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? So I got to Australia February 5th, 7th, weird with the time change, and I was supposed to be staying for 12 weeks working as an intern, earning credit hours for my internship. The funny thing about this for me is when I was going to Australia, the main concern was Australian bushfires. Remember those? Yeah, so everyone was like, oh my gosh, those are so crazy. But I was in the city, and by the time I got there, they had calmed down, I think, if I remember correctly. So it wasn't a huge worry for me. Coronavirus stuff is going on, hearing a little bit of stuff here and there, especially at the place I worked at was a hotel, so some events were being canceled because of coronavirus. So I was like, interesting. February 29th, CIS Abroad suspended all their programs in Italy. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so crazy. I was like, I can't imagine having to leave. Like, I feel so bad for all my friends in Italy. That is nuts. And we had a lot of people in Italy, I feel like from the University of Alabama. It's just a very popular study abroad location to go to Europe. So I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for them. That's so sad. And this is when me and my friends started joking about, I was the one who had the idea. I forget where I heard about someone doing this, but I was like, hey, if we get kicked out, we'll just all go to Hawaii and work on a fruit farm, right? And they were like, yeah, totally, haha, lol. And I remember telling my mom about it, and I was like, yeah, if I get kicked out of Australia, like, I'm definitely just going to Hawaii and gonna find a job there. And she was like, okay, sure. Anyway, so that was the joke, and that started to feel real, especially since like an abroad program had been canceled. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe that could happen to us. Hopefully, probably not. March 4th, University of Alabama canceled all travel, calling for the cancellation of university-sponsored work or travel outside the United States in the month of March. This policy also calls for the suspension of all university-sponsored travel beyond the month of March. If you are on direct enroll exchange affiliate blah 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 program, you are not considered to be on a university-sponsored program. While this policy does not inhibit or restrict the travel of individuals traveling on personal business or affiliate programs, the UA strongly encourages blah 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 students to consider the updated policy when making decisions to continue on or schedule travel to any of the impacted countries. So basically, I was okay because I wasn't in a UA direct enroll program, so I didn't have to leave, but this was the way of my university being like, now it's up to you, like, we recommended you leave, no longer our liability type thing. And I was like, okay, I'm good with that as long as you let me stay. No worries, thanks for the heads up. March 12th, CIS Abroad cancels all of their Europe programs. Everyone studying abroad in Europe has to leave. My dates may be slightly wonky because I was in Australia time, so some of these are Australia time zone, some of them are my time zone now, so. But yeah, for me, I have that written as March 12th. They canceled all their programs in Europe. Everyone in Europe was being sent home. It's like, oh my gosh. And then that same day, March 12th, I got this email from my university. Student spring break extended until March 30th as UA transitions to remote learning. So basically they extended spring break, and then after spring break, they were going to be going online for the rest of the semester. I was like, that is so crazy. So everyone back home was like freaking out, packing up, going home, like canceling spring break plans, trying to figure it all out. And I was chilling in Australia. I have no idea what's going on, and so definitely after this date, it was a Friday for me, I had already at work every day been checking corona stuff like constantly. But after this date, this was when I was really like, okay, this could happen any second. Like, who knows like what is going on. That whole weekend I was so on edge that like any moment, any morning, I would wake up to an email that I had to leave and that I was being kicked out. So yeah, that whole weekend I was just living my best life, doing everything I could, just like enjoying Sydney, enjoying Australia. There was the Sydney Surf Pro that weekend, so me and my friends checked that out, hung out in Manly, had a good time, did a boat party thing with other abroad students even though it was raining, went and took a surf lesson, just like trying to enjoy all the things I possibly could while I was there. And then that whole weekend went by and I heard nothing. And then Monday came around, still heard nothing. Tuesday came around, still heard nothing. So I was like starting to like build a little confidence. I was like, okay, I was like, maybe we'll be fine. Like maybe we'll have a little time. And for me, especially because for Europe and the other programs that got canceled, every time they got canceled, they were given like a week to get out. My whole thought was just got to get to the end of the week and then you have a whole nother week here. Right? Tuesday comes around, St. Patty's Day, me and my friends go out, have a good time. Little did I know. So March 18th, a Wednesday, wake up, go to work just like any other normal day. I'm so glad that morning I went to one of my favorite coffee shops. I started doing little things that I was like, I gotta do it now because who knows, any moment, any time, I could have to leave. Anyway, we'll get to work, 11:44 a.m., get this email with the subject, please return home, CIS abroad, program cancellation. Blah, blah, blah. Today, the Australian government has raised their travel level to level 4, the highest level, advising all Australians to not travel overseas. This will result in far fewer flights and options to depart Australia. Due to this, and with great sadness and care, CIS Abroad is cancelling our programs in Australia. This is when it all started to go crazy. So watching this back, I realized I didn't explain this part of it all really well, part of the situation. So the thing about when I was in Australia is that the coronavirus was not as bad there. Like it was getting worse in obviously Europe and then worse in the States than it was in Australia. So when people were talking about me leaving, it seems kind of like counterintuitive in a way because it felt like I was safer where I was and I still had 6 weeks left in my program and things were changing so quickly. I was like, if I can just live on my program, then like who knows, things could change around. So as you saw in that email, when I was being told to leave, it wasn't even that I was leaving because things were bad in Australia. I was just having to leave because they were stopping Americans from coming in. So it felt weird to go back, like felt weird to have to go back to where it was worse, but at the same time I could have been stuck in Australia for longer than 6 weeks because no one really knew like what was going on. So it felt really weird to leave at the time because even my last day in Sydney, things were open, like life was fairly normal there. Things did begin to close shortly after I left, but that's just another aspect to it that felt like really weird, is that it wasn't like, oh, I'm leaving because coronavirus is really bad. It's, oh, I'm leaving because I can't get out. Yeah. And then also in the email it says, for those of you who are still in your country, programs will be ending on Monday, March 3rd. So please book your flights to depart before this date. So this was Wednesday, March 18th, and I was supposed to leave by Monday. Oh, we have been planning a weekend away, me and a couple friends, to go to Melbourne, and we were supposed to fly out Thursday night and be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And this is Wednesday. So basically I got that email at 11:44 a.m. I immediately called my mom and told her what had just happened. And it was funny because I had actually called her on the ferry on the way to work that morning while I was at the coffee shop, and I was like, yeah, who knows, crazy, whatever. And then this happened. So how do you actually feel about me like actually trying to find a job in Hawaii? And she was like, I guess try, like see what you can find and let me know. I was like, okay. And it was funny, when I called my mom, I just like stood up from my desk in my office and just walked out, like didn't even say anything, just like called her. And then I walked back in and I was like, yeah, being sent home. So today is my last day at work. So I immediately started packing my desk. I had so much stuff at the office because this whole time I've been planning one of my last nights in Sydney to stay at the hotel. So like say I brought a change of clothes or like bought a souvenir while I was in Manly, I just like left it in my desk. Like there was no reason for me to like lug it all the way home when eventually I thought I was gonna end up at the hotel one of my last nights. Anyway, so I have so much stuff packing up my desk, and then I make this account on this website called Workaway. So when you Google best fruit farms to work on in Hawaii, the first 2 results that come up were on this website called Workaway. So I was like, oh, let me like poke around this website and see what else is going on here. And so that is when I found the other opportunities. So Workaway on their website says, travel globally, connect locally. The leading community for cultural exchange, working holidays and volunteering in 170 countries. Discover 40,000 plus hosts. So basically how Workaway works is you go and travel somewhere and stay with a host and do some sort of work. So it has things like farming, babysitting, house care, house clean, yard work, like so many things on there, helping with local, like if it's a family business or something. So you go and then you stay with your host, and then typically it's the work in exchange for accommodation and food. Anyway, so, but you do have to pay to make an account to be registered and verified and whatever. And I forget how much it was, but it was like $40 or $50 maybe, and I was like, ugh. I was like, I don't want to pay money. Like, what if I pay this? And then it's just like a waste of money. And it was honestly my mom who was like, well, Sierra, if you're gonna do it, like, you have to do it. You just have to like pay the money. So I was like, okay, you're right. So I registered on Workaway at 12:40 p.m. Then I reached out to a bunch of hosts. I quickly made my profile, added stuff about me, where I was from, what I was doing. And that's when I found some other hosts who needed things more like nannying, taking care of kids. I was like, okay, yeah, that might be cool. So I reached out to a whole bunch of hosts, just like mass messaging, like copying and pasting my thing, and just explaining what was going on. So I sent a whole bunch of messages. Then I left the office, got my last lunch on Manly Beach, bought a last souvenirs I kind of needed to, just walked on the beach, took it all in. And then around 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. I got 2 different emails that were from hosts, like rejections, being like, sorry, we don't have room, or sorry, your skills aren't whatever. So that's why I was kind of like, oh, I was like, maybe this isn't gonna work out, like maybe it's not as easy as I thought. So back at the office, still packing up my desk, meeting with my boss, going over last minute things to, you know, hand over all the work I'd done and do that sort of transition. And also, this was a crazy day at the office because they were working through all this coronavirus stuff about whether they were going to have to work from home, and they were waiting for this big answer from management, and like, so everyone at the office was stressed. And and then the other kicker of this day is that I was supposed to leave, or I was leaving work early to go do a bridge climb on the Sydney Harbor Bridge. It's like a big tourist thing, and it's pretty expensive, and I scheduled a time to do it during sunset. But yeah, so I was supposed to be leaving work early that day as well. 3 p.m. left my office to get to my bridge climb on time, and so I was getting on the ferry, and I called my mom, and I was like, yeah, packed up my desk, like have all my stuff. And I was like, I reached out to a bunch of hosts in Hawaii, and I was like, listen, you go to bed, because for her it was like time to go to bed. I was like, you go to bed, I'm gonna go do my bridge climb thing, because it was supposed to take like 3 hours. And I was like, if by the time I get off my bridge climb I don't have an offer and I don't have a job in Hawaii, then I'll just book a flight home and I'll come home on Monday after my weekend in Melbourne. No big deal. She was like, okay, that sounds like a plan. So then at 4:11 p.m. I'm on the ferry on my way to my bridge climb, and I get this email that says, aloha. Yes, we have availability. We need help with the kids during the week while my husband and I are working. Is that something you're comfortable with? It's Monday through Friday. And I was like, yes. And so I texted my mom. I was like, and I wish I had the text, but my phone number changed while I was in Australia. And I remember I was like, oh no, like, what is she gonna say? Like, she might be like, ah. And she was like, looks great. Love that. I was like, okay. So then I emailed her. I was like, yes, of course. Talked about dates. And I was like, what are the next steps? And she was like, next steps, just book your flight. I was like, got it. Okay. And that is when I took this Snapchat. which is just like funny to look back on. So yeah, 11:44 a.m. realized I had to leave the country, and by 4:11 p.m. had an offer and a job in Hawaii. Then at 5:30 p.m. I had my bridge climb, where I climbed to the top of the beautiful Sydney Harbor Bridge and looked at the sunset and looked at the city lights and got teary-eyed and was like, this is crazy. It was so much fun. I was so glad that was one of the last things I was able to do. It was one of those things I kept rescheduling because I was trying to do it with a friend, and so it's just crazy to think that is what I did my second to last, no, that was my last night in Sydney. That's wild. Then I Ubered back to my apartment. It was funny because I had all my stuff from like my desk and all these things, so I had like these bags. So I was like, I am not taking a bus and a train, like I'm just getting an Uber. And getting back, got back, went downstairs to the little pub down there, got a pizza, ate my pizza, then sat on my computer, looked at my flights, changed my flights to make it work. And then by midnight, I had a flight booked to Hawaii. The next day, Thursday, me and my friend were like, we gotta just enjoy our last day in Sydney. And so we went to Bondi Beach, had some breakfast, just enjoyed a really nice beach day, and it was so nice. And then that night we flew out to Melbourne. Friday went to the Great Ocean Road. Saturday just enjoyed the city of Melbourne. Early Sunday morning flew back to Sydney, and then I had my last day in Sydney by myself. My friend Bailey was going somewhere else doing a shark diving thing. Anyway, so last day in Sydney by myself. I went and got breakfast at a spot I'd been looking to go to breakfast for all along. Finally was able to get there, just walked around the city, took it all in, bought another suitcase, and then went back to my apartment, packed up all my stuff, got an Uber to the airport, and then that night I flew out to Hawaii. And there we have it. That is how I was in Australia studying abroad and fled the country to Hawaii. Now, while I've been here in Hawaii, my internship for the summer was canceled, so then I decided to stay longer. So I was able to find another family to stay with, and now I'm with them. I am so thankful for the hosts I found in Hawaii, and just forever thankful that I was able to find this opportunity and make the most of it in this crazy time to be in such a beautiful new place and just be able to do something different and get a new life experience and just make the most of it. So I'm sure I'll talk about more about Hawaii in another video, but yes, that is the story of my corona craziness. Anyway, thanks for watching and hearing my story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more about my time abroad in Australia, I have some videos down below, and I'm sure I'll be making more videos here while I'm in Hawaii as well, so comment down below what you want to see. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.